Is this the top of the move in all financial markets? Guys, we're looking at ETH and we're looking at the SPY. We're looking at altcoins, and at the very end, we're going to finalize it with Bitcoin. Welcome to Empire Trading Academy. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you have not already. And let's get right into this. A lot to go through, guys, but we're going to go through relatively quickly. First, we're looking at ETH and the SPY, okay? So I'm comparing these because they are, they're basically intraday at least, they're trading relatively similar, okay? So here on this move up on ETH, okay, we came up off of this macro bottom. We look at the daily chart, we came up off of this macro bottom. We were looking at this trend line to break, we burst right through that, right? Now we're looking at that big macro trend line, that big descending resistance that we have from the very top all the way back in November of 2021, okay, top of the bull market. All right, so that's pretty significant that we're coming up against now, all right? Here, if you look on the top of this move near resistance, we're now putting in a big negative divergence. This trend line is from the 4-hour, but we can adjust it for the daily as well. Big negative divergence on these moves, right? So we have higher highs here, but now lower highs here. It's letting us know that this is weakening. This move is weakening. All right. Now, if we go a little bit lower time frame, we see that we're putting in something of a head and shoulders pattern. Okay. Now, at the bottom of this sell-off, and that we were seeing some sort of buying here at support, we put in this triangle. You can go look at that on our Twitter, Empire Trading Academy _, and that we were going to be looking for some sort of head and shoulders or reversal pattern here. And so we put in this idea at the bottom here, and you can see that we've made that move up, okay? Similar, if we go a little bit higher time frame on the RSI, we were doing the same exact thing, okay? Coming up on that resistance, and we're coming up now here, not quite testing it, but we'll see how this goes. Definite weakness, definitely still negative divergence down there. Now, so we have this. Okay, potentially we go in and put in another slightly higher high on negative divergence that confirms that right shoulder breakdown, and then retest this trend line that we went ahead and broke out of. Okay, so that's one option there. Again, still within this macro structure here underneath. Okay, now during that time, okay, because like I said, at least intraday, this move here coincides with this move here on the SPY. Okay, now if we go back to, we tweeted out pretty early on this move here. We had our first and second wave, our big third impulse move, third wave, and then a corrective move. And so when we were here, we said, okay, we're most likely going to drop down a big sell-off here. Okay. And then potentially a double top, probably not a liquidity grab above this big macro range. We'll look at that in a second. So we'll go ahead and put in a double top as our fifth and final wave. And so if we fast forward to today, that's exactly what happened, right? So we got that fourth move here, and then we made that fifth move, actually pushed higher. Potential liquidity grab above our big macro resistance going up to the 4.236, okay? And then came back down, now back inside of the structure. If we zoom out, this is our structure here, right? Let's make this big, 1 second, okay? And so now we're back inside. We could adjust this slightly, and you could say potentially we used it as resistance, okay? But either way, we got rejected. We're back inside of the structure either way, okay? And that's happening there. That completes that fifth wave that we were drawing out. So now we should get some sort of corrective, three-wave corrective move down, and we'll see how that plays out. Three-wave corrective move down. The size of that will really depend on how bullish we are, because if we keep zoomed out here, you'll see we have put in this higher low now, okay? Potential inverse head and shoulders. It's kind of a funky inverse head and shoulders because there's really no real big move down. It's kind of just this chop down and to the right. But we are putting in that high time frame higher low. Okay, so we'll see how that moves. I see downside definitely in the immediate. When we look at Bitcoin in a second, you'll kind of see where I'm looking for the market overall. All right. So we have those, comparing those. That's what happened with ETH and the SPY. That's where you see that I think that we're going in the short term. All right. First up that we're going to look at, guys, Sushi. Here we've been trading in this range. We're going to go through these relatively quickly. Okay. Sushi, we've been trading in this range since May, right? We've been just trading back and forth between $2 and $1, just under $1. Okay. Chopping back and forth. Most recently, we're kind of mid-range in here, now putting in potentially a rising wedge. Okay, we're putting in a rising wedge if we look at like the 8-hour. So we have these higher lows, higher highs, right? But those higher highs are actually getting less. And if we look at the daily, on the daily closes here, okay, so the highs are lessening to or decreasing faster than the lows are, and so that's how you get that rising wedge pattern. And we're also on a negative divergence here, so potentially we get a reversal mid-range here and retest the lows. Okay, but we could also break out to the high. Obviously, anything's possible. That would be definitely a lower probability due to the structure here. So I would be looking for that short term. Remember, if we match it up and think about what was going on with the SPY and ETH as well, that's what the higher probability trade would be, would be the short on this structure. Okay, moving to Polkadot. Polkadot, we kind of had this falling wedge structure on the daily. And then we're definitely above resistance here, right? We're definitely above. Similar to what we saw, I wouldn't say it's a rising wedge. If we go a little bit lower time frame, potentially putting in like a distribution top or a head and shoulders just outside of the structure before we pull back in. Again, on really all time frames, we have a high here and then a higher high here. But then we go ahead and we look at the RSI and we have that divergence. So letting us know that this is weakening. Even if we go higher there, still same thing. Lower highs on the RSI, higher high on price action. Okay, telling us these moves are weakening as well. So I would see definitely a retest of this at some point, if not a bottom of this level. And then ultimately, most likely this support level here. Anything's possible, but again, if you see where what I point out in Bitcoin, you'll see where this will most likely end up as well. Phantom, relatively bullish actually. We had this nice kind of descending triangle here and just broke right out through it. Okay, broke right out through it and formed this. Now we're basically trading in this range right here, testing the high, super bullish on this. We basically just completely negated this negative divergence here, burst right through there, up to our resistance of the high. I'm sure we get some sort of rejection here, especially again, match it up with other charts as well. They move pretty much in tandem besides the size of the moves. And we should get some sort of pattern here that potentially you could short in the short term. So running up to resistance there on Phantom. Okay. Go to Sand. So the Sandbox again, moved above, broke out of this big macro trend line. Okay. So we have that. And again, similar to DOT and a couple others, we have these higher highs, right? But now we have this here. Right, so this negative divergence here, this move is weakening. So potentially we come back down and retest this, call it 56, 57 cent level. Okay, there. And then once again, on Bitcoin, you'll see what I think we are starting to establish here. That's Sand. Maker, last altcoin that we're going to do. Maker here. Okay, so we're still within this macro trend line. Okay, still no real bullish moves here. Now we've kind of put in these, we're still putting in lower lows, right? And lower highs. Okay, now, but potentially this could be something of a falling wedge like that. Okay, we're coming to a point. We'll decide what we're going to do in a second here. But what you will look at is in this range. If we look in this range, guys, right, you see between, say, 1200 and 500, right? We've kind of established that range. And inside of this, since June, every single time we test our resistance before a reversal or a sell-off, we kind of put in this double top on a negative divergence. So you got this here. You got this double top, quick wick, double top here, negative divergence. And then once again, putting in a double top, not at resistance, but after a move up, smaller move up, chop, move up into a double top sell-off, again, another double top, again on negative divergence there. So in my opinion, this, based on the history of this asset, based on the chart, this looks like we'll come back down and retest that $500 level. Okay. There, this could be a nice short, potentially a little late here. Maybe we get one more move up. Invalidation would be above the high. Anyway, make sure you message us if you have any specific trading questions, guys, whether on the website or on Twitter. So we have that on Maker, okay? Now let's look at the Dixie real quick. So we're looking at the dollar here, okay? Seems like a long time ago we put in this parabola, okay? That because this is when late, right? So we started in June 2021 and just basically chopped and moved pretty big moves all the way up until we got to basically that 115 late in December. So basically for like a year and a half, close to a year and a half, just moving up, chopping up parabola, we put this in. And once we got the breakdown of that, this is what we were watching for. Once we got the breakdown, we assumed that we would have some sort of a sell-off from there. Obviously, we got that big sell-off here coming into some sort of local support here. And potentially, if you match up all the markets and what's going on, potentially we get some sort of a slight bounce, right? We could get some sort of slight bounce here. And that is what allows the dollar to show strength, and then crypto potentially sells off a little bit from what we see. We see a lot of those topping patterns, negative divergences, right? So that kind of matches up there, right? And that's going to be our high probability setups. Okay, finally, guys, we're looking at Bitcoin. All right. So we've had these drawn out for a very, very, very long time now. We've been bearish since around 55,000. We didn't call the absolute top, but pretty close when we had confirmed that basically now we're putting in these double tops on a big negative divergence on high time frames. You can see here, nasty negative divergence, double top. Once that was confirmed around 55,000, we said bear markets in which we went into a full-blown bear market. And then once we got to this chop, we noticed a descending or a falling wedge, right? Falling wedge, bullish reversal pattern. And then we also have this macro trend line similar to ETH and a bunch of the alts as well. This macro trend line coming down. Okay. So recently, this is our move. We broke out. We talked about we tweeted out, still within falling wedge. We put in this idea down at the bottom right here. You can see we put in this idea here, this arrow. Okay. And you can see that it's basically following it more or less to a T. Okay. And so we made these big moves up. All right. And here we are here sitting at around 23,000. Now, we've seen it multiple times, okay? Now, everyone is not perfect. Every single structure is not perfect, but you can see once again, we have a high here, and then a higher high here, okay? And once again, we're putting in that negative divergence there, letting us know that this move is weakening, okay? This is nothing that I would touch as far as a short position, because there's no reversal signs at all. There's no structure that tells me, hey, price action is showing selling, bigger players distributing their coins. But if I were to see this weakening here, I would look at another alt and look to see if there was an actual setup there, that they kind of go in tandem like that. All right, so we've moved up here, trading at 23,000. We have this idea with our arrow here, and what I continued to point to, guys, right? I kept pointing to Bitcoin. This is our idea, and we've had it for a long time now. So this move up here would, and we're starting to here breaking out of that macro resistance. Okay, so we're starting to break out of that macro resistance here. And we could continue to move. We could continue to move, make our way up to 36,000. First, we would want to test that $30,000 level. That's a big, big level. It also coincides with the 3618. Okay, so that would be very, very significant, possibly higher. But the idea that I have is that we go ahead and we move above this macro resistance for a liquidity grab in this area, right? And so we get all this liquidity for bigger players to sell that bought up on this bottom. There's a bunch of volume throughout this structure. Bunch of volume, bunch of liquidity up here. So we have bigger players that can sell, and then we go ahead and we put in lower lows. Okay, potentially we never get this, sure, but this is what happens every single cycle. Okay, we have this. We also have this macro trend line. Okay, we had this distribution top up at the top here. This would make a lot of sense for the size of the markdown. The size of the markdown would make sense for here based on the size of this distribution top. And also, if you look in other markets, we never really just kind of move down and then just move up, right? You kind of create this base, and it's all based on sentiment. And because there's a lot of retail traders, inexperienced retail traders in the crypto markets, it's really, really based on sentiment heavily. Okay, so you have the retail traders buying in at the top. Okay, you have smarter players selling their coins to them. Okay, and as we go into the bear market, now you have the retail traders selling down here because they think that it's going to go lower, right? But then you have those same retail not wanting to go in because they were just crushed. And so what you have is this kind of basing out pattern that occurs when sentiment is down. There's really not much demand, except in this area, you have those big players or smart buyers accumulating during this level. So we started to accumulate down here. Okay, even if I think that it's going to go lower, I've started to accumulate down here at the lows. Okay, because you never know for sure. Nobody knows 100% for sure. But you, at the end of the day, keep it so simple. You want to buy when it's low and sell when it's high, right? It's easier said than done, but that's for, especially for long term, that's all you have to do. Anyway, so this is the general idea that we have. If Bitcoin continues to sell off, we have this move up, liquidity grab in this area, bear market rally, we come back down. I'm going to be looking to buy all throughout this area, right? I'm going to have a little bit left over for if we move even lower, sure. But all throughout this zone here is where I'm going to be buying, okay? And have already started to buy. But if this happens, all the alts will also sell off further, like we talked about. We looked at the support levels that were below where they're trading right now. And then if we look at the SPY as well quickly, that would also most likely mean a rejection off of this and a retest of this support level, okay, which could mark the bottom, sure. We could also sell off, continual, or we break out to the upside. Obviously, anything is possible. We want to play things as the structure forms, right, with the highest probability. And so that's what we're looking at, guys. Okay, that's what we're looking at on ETH, the SPY, alts, Bitcoin. Please let us know how we can help you in your trading, guys. If you never give up, I guarantee you can succeed in trading. Okay, become disciplined, never give up. Let us know how we can help you, and we'll see you in the next video.